Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paradox that's thousands of years old. It's a story about two brothers, a powerful prophecy, and a kingdom that seems to have gone to the wrong guy.
So let's get right into it with this ancient puzzle from the book of Genesis. Imagine this: a father, on his deathbed, promises a kingdom to one of his sons. But when you look at how history actually played out, a different son ends up in charge. So what happened? Was the prophecy just wrong? That's the head-scratcher we're going to unravel today.
All right, so our story kicks off here with the patriarch Jacob. He's on his deathbed, and he gathers all 12 of his sons around him. But this isn't just to say it's goodbyes. He's there to basically lay out their destinies.
Now you've got to understand, in this ancient world, these blessings weren't just a father's wishful thinking. No, they were seen as divinely inspired, prophetic declarations. Think of it like a spiritual roadmap for the entire future of the 12 tribes of Israel. And out of all 12 blessings, the one that really sets up our whole paradox is the one he gives to his fourth son, Judah. Jacob makes this incredibly specific and powerful promise. The line of kings, it's going to come from him. And the key word here is scepter. This isn't just some vague hint. This is actually the first explicit symbol of kingship in the whole story of Israel. So the prophecy is making a crystal clear statement. A royal line, a real monarchy, is destined to come from Judah's family.
So, you see, the prophecy is laying out this really clear path. Judah's descendants are promised leadership, military victory, and they're even compared to a powerful lion. It all points to one thing: a royal dynasty that's built to last.
But right in the heart of this prophecy, there's a fascinating little translation mystery that scholars have been debating for, well, centuries. That very last line of the prophecy, "until he comes to whom it belongs," has been a huge topic of debate. The way it's worded has created this historical puzzle about who exactly this future ruler is supposed to be. And here's where it gets interesting. If you look at older translations, like the King James, they use the word Shiloh, almost like it's a proper name for a coming Messiah. But pretty much all modern translations read that same Hebrew word as a phrase, "he to whom it belongs."
At the end of the day, though, the different translations don't really change the core meaning. Whether this future figure is called Shiloh or he to whom it belongs, both versions point to the same big idea. There's a future, ultimate ruler coming who has the rightful claim to Judah's throne.
Okay, so the prophecy is crystal clear. Judah's line is the royal line. And that brings us right back to our paradox. If Judah was promised the throne, why in the world does his younger brother, Joseph, become the one who's actually in charge? Well, the story takes a really dramatic turn. Joseph is his father's absolute favorite. And to make things worse, he has these dreams where his whole family, including his older brothers, are bowing down to him. Yeah, you can imagine how that went over. This favoritism and what his brothers see as arrogance leads to some serious resentment, and they end up betraying him, selling him into slavery in Egypt. Joseph's life becomes this unbelievable roller coaster of humiliation and then incredible exaltation. I mean, he goes from a pit in the desert to being a slave to being unjustly thrown in prison. But it's in that prison where his gift for interpreting dreams finally gets him noticed. It brings him all the way to Pharaoh himself. He interprets a dream that predicts a massive famine. And in this just stunning turn of events, he's made second in command of all of Egypt.
So how do we solve this? On one hand, you have Judah with the promise of a scepter, and on the other, you have Joseph with the reality of power. Is this a flat-out contradiction?
The answer, it turns out, lies in this really powerful idea called redemptive history. The basic concept is that history isn't just a series of random events. It's the belief that things that look like contradictions, or even tragedies, are often the very way that a bigger divine plan unfolds.
So here it is, the big takeaway. Joseph's power didn't contradict the prophecy, it enabled it. His rise to power wasn't a political takeover, it was a providential intervention. By being in charge of all the food in Egypt during that terrible famine, he was able to save his entire family, the very family that would grow into the nation of Israel. It's redemptive history in action. What looked like a mistake was actually the very thing that made the promise's survival possible.
And that is the solution to the paradox. Joseph's rule wasn't a replacement for Judah's promised kingdom. It was the necessary step to make it happen. You see, one brother had to rule an empire for a little while, so that the other brother's descendants could one day rule a kingdom forever. The promise was actually preserved through the person who seemed to be overshadowing it.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
This story suggests that maybe the most important plans aren't fulfilled in spite of life's crazy detours and dramas, but actually directly through them. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What unexpected path might be leading you somewhere important right now?